Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in continuation of the introduction to Snapseed, so we'll be looking at a particular important tool, curve tool. Many people actually don't know how to make use of this tool, but it's a very important tool. You can actually even use it for your collaborate the design. You just have a specific effect to your particular element, your image, whatever. So the first thing I'll be doing is, now this is the particular tool, the curve tool. Now, so I'll be making use of this particular image. I'm making use of a gradient. A gradient is actually a mixture of two colors, two or three colors, two or more colors that will actually blend together in such a way. But if you look at this one, is a gradient of black and white. This particular face is white, while this particular face is black. Alright, so this is the curve tool. Now the curve tool, this is an histogram. It shows us the light area. You can see this thing that looks like a chart here, and the dark areas in a particular image. So these are options of the gradient. This is for RGB, red, green and blue. This is for red, just the red the channel. This is for the green channel. You can use to either add green to our element or remove green for our design. This is blue. You can also use it in adding blue to a particular image or remove blue from a particular image. This is the red is also the same thing. You can add red to an image or remove just red from image. And also I'll still come across to that. Luminance, this is the brightness of the image, while RGB comprises of red, green and blue, like every of your image, every of your the colors, because every colors comprises of as a measure of red, green and blue in it, because it's actually the primary color and they all comes from RGB, so they're having a measure of red, green and blue. For example, let me just show you in Pixellab here. Now this let me just get magenta. This is for purple. So when I come to this pencil tool, you can see red is 192, green is 3, blue is 255. It's showing us that there's a measure of red here, there's a measure of green here, and there's a measure of blue there. So if we come to another one, let's see cyan. It's showing us that there's a measure of blue here, green and red, but that just the measures varies. Okay, so let's just go back to this particular one. So we'll be looking at this. Just to hide, this is for hiding the curve. See, I cannot do anything again. This is like a preset. Okay, this is a preset. You can look at the curves are actually adjusting themselves, but we don't want to make use of preset. I want to show you how to make use of this particular tool. Alright, so I'll be introducing you to the curve. Now there are two places that have points here, the first point and this other point. Now the curve is actually divided into 5 parts. So I'm just going to, all you just need to work on the points, you just need to just drag somewhere, and when you drag upward, it's going to become light. When you drag downward, it's going to become dark. So that's one thing, that you're adding dark, you're adding black, you're adding white. So one thing about the curve tool is that the curve operates in such a way that you add color and you remove color. So, and when you are adding color, you are removing the opposite of that color. When you are removing color, you are adding the opposite of that color. Okay, for example, now this is, like I said, it's divided into 5 points. Now the first point. Okay, now you can see that chart that is here. Let me just use the chart to define what I want to define. So explain. Now the first thing is this side. This is known as the white part, the white point, or white face or white point. Now it helps you to remove, it controls the white, the bright, as in the white part of that image. If I take this white part and I move it down here, when I tell you that when you take it down, it's becoming black. So if I move it down here, you can see it is becoming dark. That is becoming gray. Gray, yeah. when it turns to gray, then it's going to become, when I move it completely, it's now dark. So it helps to control the white part of your design. Now this one is for the highlights. Highlight is between the midtones and the white part. It's still a bit like, it's not too white, but it still has a measure of white in it. Okay, so when I take this highlight down, you can see this particular side is actually having, so this place represents the white part, this place the black part, this place here the highlight, this place the midpoint, and this place the shadows. Right, so we just get, so this is for the highlight. It controls this particular area. You're going to see when I take it for an image, it will be that place that is not actually white, it's not too white, and is not too in the middle of that particular color. So this is that for that. Now this is for the midpoint. It's the middle of midtones, like the middle, the one in the middle is in between the highlights and the shadows. Now this is for the shadows in your image, not too black but just a bit dark. The shadows, you can see it's all from this particular side. When I drag it here, you can see that particular area. Now this is for the black space, the darkest part in your particular image. Now if I drag it to this side, I told you if you move it up, it's going to become white. Now the black point, I move it up, you can see the image is becoming white. So let's just see the black point. I just move it up here, the entire image has become white. Now this is the white point. If I move the white point dark, you can see the entire image has become dark. So this is still for the shadows, regardless of how I turn the curve. This is still for the shadows, this is for the highlights, this is for the white points, and this is for the midtones. The midtones still remain itself. So regardless of how I turn it, it's still the same thing. And most particular software won't be able to turn it like this anyway. But let's just get on with this. So let's get it right back. So the highlights helps you to help the place that are not too bright, that are bright with the highlighted part of the image. Now this midtones, just like the one in between the middle and the highlight and the shadows help you, the shadow area in the image, and the black point helps you for the places that are actually black in that image. Now let's get over with this. Now the next thing is RGB. For me to explain this thing, you have to understand that the opposite of RGB is actually a primary color. From the combination, the combination of RGB gives you CMYK: cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So this is RGB. Now when you move this line towards the red, you see the entire image. This is for red, just for red. If I move it here, you can see everywhere is becoming red. Now what is happening here is that the opposite of red is cyan. You can see this is red, this is cyan. Cyan is opposite, this is red. And cyan is a combination of green and blue. Cyan is a combination of green and blue. So when I move the slide here, what is that? It's removing. What is happening is that it's actually reducing the intensity of green and blue in that particular image. For example, when I look at the color code, you can see green and blue are reduced, but the thing is all red. And that is what is happening here. You're now seeing this thing. I know I told you before that every color is a combination of red, green, and blue. Now this, when now dragging the slide to this red, it has now reduced the combination of green and blue. The fixed, you can see the values are low, 6 and 15. Hence the entire image is now having the red part. Now if I now drag this one down, you can see cyan is now giving me cyan, the opposite of red. Means I'm actually reduced the red part, removed or reduced the intensity of red in this particular design. Hence you're seeing this particular color, cyan. So when I move this slide here, you can see the same color. I come to this pencil, you can see the red value is 3, green is 200, and they are different shades, but I hope you understand. So when I remove red from my image, I'm giving it cyan, which is a combination of green and blue. When I add red, I'm reducing cyan and blue. So when I come back here, green the same way. Now the opposite of green is magenta, which is purple. So when I add green to it, you can see when we come here and we add green, when we come here, we see the red. So purple is a mixture of red and blue. The red, you can see the red and blue value are reduced. So it means green is dominating. So green is used more. So you can see every element here will be green, but the value of red and blue will reduce. And so when you remove green from an image, it gives you purple. We'll try it from a particular image. When you remove green from an image, you'll be left with purple. And purple means the value of red and green is high. Red and blue, is high. Look at it. Red and blue is high. So be having the combination of red and blue, which is purple, is high. So that is, we are adding. Let me go back to this color spectrum. So that is what we're having here. So if I'm having an image and I want to remove green, you can see it is purple that is added. Is either I'm adding purple to it. When I'm adding purple to it, I'm removing green. When I'm adding green to it, I'm removing purple. Same with let me just make sure it is neutral. Let's see. So neutral being just position it at neutral has cancelled everything. So regardless of whatever you do, maybe you've adjusted it, and instead of just going back, just come here and click neutral. Everything just going to reset itself. So the same thing red. If I want to add cyan to it, I'm removing red. If I want to add red to it, I'm removing cyan. So that is that for that. The blue channel. Now what we'll be having here is blue. When we add blue to this particular element, we are removing yellow from it. The opposite of blue is yellow, and yellow is a combination of red and green. So now I've moved my slide here to blue. When I come here to check the figure of green and red, you can see green is 14, green is 2, while red is 14. Alright, so that is that for that. And yellow is a combination of, you can see they are close to each other, red and green, and yellow is now in the middle, means these two combine to form yellow. Now see red and blue combine together to form purple. Green and blue combine to form magenta. So the opposite of red is cyan, the opposite of blue is yellow. So when I'm adding blue to my design, I'm reducing to this image, I'm adding yellow, I'm removing yellow from it. That is, I'm reducing the value of red and blue green from this particular image. But if I'm adding yellow to it, me adding yellow is indirectly reducing the blue value in the particular image. So please take note of that. So blue, when I'm adding yellow to it, blue is reducing. When I'm adding blue to it, yellow is reducing. So when you add yellow, you can see when it is yellow, you see the value of blue is 50, is reduced. So when I move it completely, you see blue is 5, but the rest are high. So yellow indicates that no blue. So you can use, and while luminance, let me just come to neutral, while the other one is which indicates brightness. So you can see when I add this one, it's becoming brighter. When I remove this one, the image is becoming darker. The opposite of white is black. Alright, so when I increase it, the image becomes brighter. I reduce it, the image becomes darker. Alright, so we can just come here now and play. Let me click here, or better still, let me come to neutral. Alright, so for example, I'm going to try and create put cyan. See, cyan is coming out, but I don't want cyan. I want like to add contrast to. So I look at is an X curve. I created an X. I just move it top up a bit. Because I find now when you are doing working on some image, this I've kind of added a bit of like a balance to this. You see that I just added cyan and I added red, but not too much. They are uniform. That is, the value I added in this particular image are equal. So that's why you can see it from the screen. They are like this. That's why they are like this. So I'll come back to neutral. Now let me come to blue, yellow, you can see, and blue. You can see on the screen we're having yellow here, we're having blue here, and we're having white here. So it works with that. That's that for this. So it's self-explanatory, right? Then the right just carries everything. So let's just come to RGB, and when RGB automatically, when I take it, it becomes dark. That's for RGB. Means I'm actually trying to regulate the light and the dark part in it. RGB comprises of all the colors. So for here to just be having white and black, it comprises of all the colors that I'm actually. So when I'm using RGB, means I'm actually affecting the whole colors. So if I take it down, means all the colors are getting darker. If I'm taking it up, means all the colors are getting brighter. Means I'm adding more to those colors. If I'm getting darker, I'm reducing the brightness. So that's just where it starts for, and it's actually a good way to achieve contrast. So we're done with this particular. Let's just work with a particular image. All right, so let's now. All right, so I'll just come here and just keep my curve. Let's just see I can get neutral. All right, neutral. Now this is the curve. This is the curve. I'll still put it in neutral. So that is the curve. Now the curve is divided into 4 parts. Let me click on 4. Is it 4 or 5 parts here? This top here, first point, is the white point. This one down here is the black point. We have at the middle is for the midtones. This place is for the highlight, and this place is for the shadows. Now the midtones is just, when you look at this particular image, light is actually reflecting on the first, this, like you can see the head, this side of the neck, the head. So those are where the white part of the image. So when I increase the highlight, those white parts are actually going to increase, going to be affected very, very well. So, but if I reduce the highlights, those white parts too are still going to be affected. So it's going to, so why the shadows, if I increase it, the dark area of the image is going to be affected. If I reduce it, the dark area of the image, you'll notice everywhere that just went dark is going to be affected. Now this slide, if you move the slide to this side, is going to make it bright. When I move it here, it's going to make it dark. Just like you look at this histogram that is showing here. So this is sides for the midtones. If I move it down, so those mid areas will be affected. When I move it up, those mid areas is going to be affected. I can see it has added some saturations to this picture. So let me just come here, neutral. Now this here are presets. In case you don't know how to use the curve tool, there are presets that the makers of Lightroom have already installed there for you. You can see the curves are adjusting. These curves are adjusting, so you can just pick one that seems fit for you. Alright, so this just helps you to see or remove the curve tool. why this shows us different functions in the curve tool. Now, okay, let's just go back. Now this is the overall curve setting. If I move the midtones down, you see the image actually went dark. If I move it up, it brightens the image. You can see it's like it brightens the image. Alright, so let me still put it back in neutral because I want to delete that point. I come back here, click on the red. Now this function of this red is that if I increase the red, it's going to add red to the image, or the parts that are red will be affected. It will add red to the image. Now you can see the red has added red to our image. And also I want you to understand something. Every color has an opposite. The opposite of red is cyan. Now this image, as I added red to it, it became red. If I move it to the top, if I now move it down, means I'm removing red from it, so it's going to give me cyan. So when I move red, you can see cyan is coming out from the image because I've actually removed every traces of red. I've been removing the traces of red from the image. That's what it's telling me. So very cool. Set it back to, so this is green, the same thing, green. If I move it, slide up, I'm adding green to the image. If I sway down, the opposite of green is magenta. If I move the green down, you can see beside of magenta, purple at the skin of the lady. Okay, so that's for that. So the other one is blue. If I move the slide up, I'm adding blue to the image. If I move the slide down, I'm adding yellow. The opposite of blue is yellow. So you can see. Alright, so the third one, the last one is luminance. When I move the luminance, it's like I'm adding highlights to it and brightening it up. When I move it down, you can see I've darkened the image. Okay, so I'll just come here and give it a hard contrast. Let me first put it in neutral and add contrast, soft contrast. Let me leave it in hard contrast. I'm okay with this. Alright, so that's all for this particular video. We'll see in the next one. Now, in continuation of the curve tool, I'll be making use of this image just to explain. Now, this is the RGB, in RGB. So when I increase the slide this way, you can see it brightens up the entire image. You can go as far as you want. When I take it, the slides, move it down this way, it darkens everything. Okay, so but we don't want to work with that now. So I just want to use mainly common what everybody use, people that actually know how to use curve. Majorly we make use of the X. They make use of this X. That's how I was using it when I started. I even do it up till now, just a bit of the X, this X curve. So just first take the shadows down. Okay, we first take these shadows. We'll take this side down. Then we'll take the highlights up a bit, not too much. So not too much, not too. But for this particular image, this image has actually been worked on. So this X curve is not actually going to work with this. So the best thing to do in this particular image is you just, maybe I'll just want to bring on the shadows a bit. Maybe I'll take the highlights down a bit. This S in this way. Okay, so I'll just take it. So this is before and after. So it's just like I have the raw image that has not been worked on. So you can go ahead and process it, but that you can just try as well working with the X curve. So let me just come here and still come to it. Now okay, let's go to the previous one. Let me just come to here, revert. Now for this image, if you notice now that the red is kind of red, So I want to remove the red. That is, I'll be adding yellow, cyan, sorry. So I'll just take this light down. You can see it's no longer red. Look at it. This is before and after. Before and after. You can see it's no longer red. But as well, you can still come here and also work with the X curve with this way. Now all I just do, I just drew the slide to this particular side, and I'll just come here and do it this way. The shadows, I drew the shadows down, and the highlights too, I drew it to this particular side. So this is before and after. Just like I added a bit red to it. So this is before and after. Alright, so this is the green. The green is okay, so I won't want to touch it because the tree is very green. So when I come to blue, I might want to touch the blue. Let me see. Maybe when I add blue, it's going to make the image look cool. But for this man image, I may not want. Okay, let me just stick the slide this way. Add yellow to it. Okay, so this is before, this is after. It's just like a bit of change that was there before. So I'll come to luminance. I may just come and just brighten it up a bit. So before and after. So I can just come here and voila, this is my image. Now we started first with the X curve. Then I just went out just using the ones I want. So you can just play around this curve. Now it depends on the image you'll be working on. So let me just bring in a image, a particular image. There was this. Okay, let me just bring in this one, and I'll come to the curve tool. So for example, I will also be using the X curve. Then I'll position it move it this way, the shadows this way, and the highlight I'll move it this way. So this is before and after. It now looks a bit cool. Now I'll just stick with this. I'll not want to use this the remaining one here. So you can just try it out. Okay, let's add a bit of red to it. It's more on the skin, and the rest is the rest. Okay, so you can see it before and after. Alright, but I think I'll just go just like it's washing out as if I'm adding saturation. I'm reducing out of the saturation. I'm reducing saturation. You see the skin is actually like it's washing out. If you feel that there's much red in the skin, this is a particular option you might want to go for. You may want to go for if you feel maybe there's too much red in the image. You will just want to go for this. Alright, so the blue, no, I'll just stick with this. And also I take and just this S. I'm okay with this. Alright, so more or less that is how you can just still come here and play with this to a particular your taste. Maybe you take the shadows like this. There are times you may not want the midtones. Maybe when you just take this curve, you can see this other curve went with it too, and you move this one. But there are times you will just maybe you don't want you just make sure you put a dot here, then you touch this one. So this is not going to move too much. Then once I put this one here, when I just put this one, you can see the shadows only moved, but the highlight is not moving. So you can still come here and the highlights down. So put the midtones here. So you can just play with it. Alright, more or less.